class. Welcome to week 2. This week the business curriculum focuses on types of businesses and corporations and marketing mix. Before we get too deep into this week's topics, let's recap week 1. Last week you were tasked with looking at the factors you would need to address starting a statewide task force to deal with gangs, drugs, and organized crime. You were to look at the embedded videos featuring Chris and Erica in order to understand some of the common business issues associated with starting a new business and apply those to your starting your task force. While there is not a one-to-one correlation, Chris and Erica's travails can provide you with some perspective of the business process within a criminal justice organization. One of the things that I noticed is that many of you neglected to realize that in almost every case that you would be flying the plane while you build it. Meaning that even if you are setting up the task force, you would likely be expected to start producing results almost immediately. So, one of the first things that you should be looking at is collecting actionable intelligence on your targets based on the objective that you are going after major violators. The other thing would be to staff task force with officers and agents already working the gang, narcotics, and racket beats, so they can hit the ground running and almost immediately bring you actionable target intelligence that will lead to quick arrests and convictions. The other items that need to be addressed are multi-jurisdiction coordination and operations, including leveraging existing equipment and infrastructure across the state to facilitate mission completion and success. Meaning office space, old vehicles, serviceable tactical and surveillance equipment, communication and IT, etc., which feed into this week's lesson. Chris and Erica have gone to see Lena to get some help getting started and to get an azimuth check on their original thoughts and ideas about getting started. Lena discussed business structure, responsibilities, and some market forces that might affect operations of the business. While these are not a one-for-one correlation with a criminal justice organization, structure, lines of authority, responsibility, mission statements and goals, and drivers of and forces that act to affect your operations are all things that need to be taken into consideration as you apply these concepts to our criminal justice-based applications. These theoretical frameworks and constructs that are the cornerstone of business and corporate functions all have parallels in the criminal justice world. An example is structure and organization. Lena discussed types of incorporation with Chris and Erica. This is a conversation that you would have with the task force lead. While you may not be discussing the intricacies of S corporations or C equals corporation, but you will be discussing structures. Will you use a paramilitary type structure, a corporate structure, or a flat structure? Will you have an in-house tactical team, or will you rely on local assets for assistance? Will you have a region-by-region approach or a whole-of-state approach? These are all the right questions to ask. The answers to these questions will dictate what you request as a budget, and will shape all operations and outcomes until the next budget cycle. Speaking of budget, this is as good a place as any to discuss your product and the marketing mix. In the beginning of a new business, you have to get people in the door and butts in the seats. You have to think about advertising, marketing strategy, placement, prices, etc. For the task force you are doing the same things, except your audience are policy makers, city and county officials, police and law enforcement leaders, and people in control of or who influence state budgets. Even if you weren't starting a new task force, you would still have to operate in this environment as a criminal justice, correctional, or homeland security leader. These are just a few things to think about in the context of the business curriculum and how it applies to you as criminal justice majors. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me.